Just like the gaming franchise this movie is based on, you either love it or you hate it. Welcome back to my 2 cents, everyone. Today's review is going to be particularly special because I finally get to talk about one of the most anticipated movies for me of all time and one of my favorite gaming franchises of all time, and that is Five Nights at Freddy's. I am a little ashamed to admit that I am actually a big fan of Five Nights at Freddy's. I mean, most people my age grew up watching Matt Pat, who makes a small cameo in this movie, break down the extremely complicated lore of this franchise, as well as Markiplier getting jump scared and shocked at the sight of the bite of 87, which was actually the bite of 83, but
Was that the bite of 87?
I hardly actually played the games because I was a big pussy. I hate jump scares. Even to this day, you can still scare me with a jump scare. Even the worst movies can do that to me. But I did play little bits of each of the first 4 games. I more fell in love with this franchise because of the look of the animatronics, and I liked how convoluted and cryptic the lore was in the franchise. The reason I am a little ashamed to admit my love for this franchise is because of the fans of it. It is no secret that since this franchise started, there has been some very gross and weird fan fiction based around the animatronics, who are all dead kids. In regards to the fan fiction, I know we all were kids once and we didn't know any better, but some of this shit is written by people in their 20s and is damn near criminal, and it's these reasons as to why I actually fell out of love with this franchise for a long time. But like William Afton,
I always come back.
and it was this movie that actually brought me back to the franchise. Because ever since I got into the franchise, there had always been talks about the movie that would potentially come out. And I didn't think this movie was ever actually going to happen because until the movie actually came out, it was announced 8 years prior. So I was just convinced this movie wasn't going to happen. But after such a long wait, it finally happened. Starting off with the characters, as always, we have Mike Schmidt, who is played by Josh Hutcherson, who is just a miserable person. He's having a hard time getting a job in order to make ends meet, while also trying to better his relationship with his sister Abby. His only surviving family, actually, is his little sister Abby, of course, and his bitch of an aunt Jane, who is trying to take custody of Abby in order to get money from the state. His younger brother Garrett was kidnapped when he was a kid, his mother died from what we can only assume is natural causes, and his father committed sewer slide because of the grief of losing his wife and child. At least that's what we're meant to assume. Bro went through it. But of course, he ends up finding a job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza as a night shift security guard, and of course, shit gets creepy and weird quick. Mike has these dreams every night of him watching his brother Garrett get kidnapped, and the things that put him to sleep are a little cassette tape with nature sounds, relatable, and a poster on his ceiling that says Visit Nebraska. It's cool to see my home state actually get some representation in a pretty profitable movie, but let's be honest, who the hell would want to visit Nebraska? Except for obviously the best zoo. Anyways, Mike is the most relatable and normal person in this entire story by a long shot, which makes him my favorite character in this franchise so far, because when you're telling a story full of characters that are either cartoonish or just straight up weird, you need this relatable character to really help you through the story and the weird events that are going on screen. He's just a solid guy that's trying to take care of his sister in any way he can, which let's talk about his sister. Abby doesn't really like Mike too much throughout the movie and loves to talk and draw her imaginary friends. She doesn't actually do too much until about the second half of the movie when she actually convinces Mike to go to Freddy Fazbear's and meets the animatronics. But once she meets all the animatronics, she finds out that those imaginary friends she has are actually the spirits of the kids that are possessing the animatronics. And she's actually the reason the animatronics are getting a little quirky at night.
The animatronic characters here do get a bit quirky at night.
I'll talk about why they want Abby later, but I'll be honest, Abby can be really annoying at times, but most kids her age honestly are. She's very naive and I guess can talk to vengeful spirits of children. But I totally understand why her character is here, and overall I think she has a nice arc throughout the movie that comes together at the end really nicely, and I'm hoping that in the sequel and any future films we will see her continue to develop and become a better character. Now let's talk about the weirdest character, both acting wise and just overall character-wise, and that's Vanessa. Now, if you know anything about the actual games of this franchise, you'll know that Vanessa is a character that was introduced in Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, which I'm pretty sure that game's only connection to the other games is that it takes place way after the first 6. I never actually played Security Breach, but I know that it's hinted that Vanessa's the daughter of William Afton, but that's never explicitly confirmed. But in this movie, she reveals that she actually is the daughter of William Afton, which I guess can explain why she acts so weird throughout the movie. But that just makes me wonder if we're ever going to see William Afton's other kids from the games, like Michael, Elizabeth, or even the Crying Child. I guess it wouldn't really make sense with where the story is going, but I wouldn't be surprised if we at some point get to see Michael. I even kind of had a theory at one point that Mike's name was actually Michael and he was actually the son of William Afton and just didn't know it. But at this point, I highly doubt they would ever go that route because I'm pretty sure Mike is just his own character. Anyways, Vanessa is odd. She randomly shows up at the restaurant when Mike is there and just starts telling him all this weird backstory in regards to the restaurant. And I don't know if it's just me, but it looked like Vanessa was trying to flirt with Mike. She also just never elaborates on anything she says. Like after Abby's accident, when she gets electrocuted trying to play with Bonnie, she straight up tells Mike that if he ever brings her back, she's just gonna shoot him. Now I know she's acting like this because she knows that Afton is nearby and is trying to kill both Mike and Abby. But maybe try being a little less subtle and less secretive. Just a suggestion. I mean, ultimately her intentions are good, but I don't know if it was Elizabeth Lale's acting or just how the character was written and how the dialogue was written, but I don't really like Vanessa. She never really conveys the emotions that I would expect out of her character. She's always very weird and a lot of the times just is wearing the same face, like a basic smile, a basic frowning face. Maybe she'll be better in the sequels, but for now, I just think she's a bit too odd. Now, let's talk about my favorite actor in this movie, and I hope will eventually be my favorite character in this new franchise, William Afton, who is played by the infamous Matthew Lillard. For most of the movie, William goes by Steve Raglan to cover his identity, but let's be honest, we all knew that it was him. I mean, even from the first trailer, you can guess that Matthew Lillard is William Afton. I'm sure I even speak for the people that don't know anything about FNAF that it was incredibly easy to tell who William Afton was, or better known as the Purple Guy. I mean, the first time we see him in the trailer and in the movie, he's wearing a purple tie. And for the people that actually knew the lore behind William Afton, they all knew that he went under different aliases to cover his tracks. I mean, casting Stu from Scream to play a child murderer is already kind of a big giveaway. In fact, Matthew Lillard even does a little reference to Scream when he does Ghostface's classic knife clean. I think Scott Cawthon, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, knew that fans would pick up on who Afton was almost immediately. And I honestly don't think that his biggest priority was keeping Afton's identity a secret. I think his main objective was just trying to stay close to the story of the games while still trying to keep Afton's identity relatively a mystery for the new fans. Regardless, I think Matthew Lillard does amazing as William Afton. I mean, when he finally reveals himself in the last quarter of the movie, yes, you can hear a little bit of Stu coming through in his performance, but he still does a great job at taking some of those elements from Stu and turning him into his own version of this sadistic and mostly smart child murderer.
Look at you. Look at the nasty things that you have become. Look how small you are. How worthless you are. You are wretched, rotten little beast. I made you!
And I thought he was legitimately scariest in the Spring Bonnie suit. My only issue is that there is not enough of him. I know that's saved for the sequels and all that, but I just wanted to see more. Also, his "I'll always come back" line felt a little bit forced. Because while I do believe that Afton knew he would live on somehow in that moment, it's kind of crazy and stupid to put the helmet on of the thing that's actually killing you. But I loved Matthew Lillard's portrayal of William Afton, and I can't wait to see see more of him in the sequels, and hopefully at some point he will eventually look like Springtrap. Overall, I thought the characters were solid, but I do think that a lot of these characters will actually turn people off from this movie just because of how cartoonishly weird they are. But for me, I'm just looking at this movie from the lens of the game franchise it's based off of, where characters acting a bit weird is the least weird thing from this franchise. Now, the story of this film goes, as I previously stated, that Mike Schmidt has been having a hard time getting a job and taking care of his sister Abby. I mean, as Mike says, she talks to air more than she talks to him, and his aunt is trying to take her away from him. So when he goes to Steve Raglan, asking if he has a job for him, the only job he has to offer him is a security guard job at an abandoned restaurant called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Michael initially says no, but eventually, out of desperation, he takes the job. After some odd dreams with children and his nightmare about Garrett getting kidnapped, and an officer named Vanessa telling him about the history of the restaurant, he starts to think that there is more going on at this restaurant than people are telling him. Now, I've heard from people that didn't like this movie that they didn't like how convoluted the story was, but to that I say that's how FNAF has always been. All these games have been about leaving little breadcrumbs and clues to lead you to seeing the bigger picture of this story. So I actually like how convoluted and complicated this story is, because it actually makes the movie feel like a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I mean, if you really pay attention to this movie, there are so many Easter eggs that you can find. Like the guy who gets killed in the kitchen by the cupcake is literally wearing a shirt that is a mini game from the Five Nights at Freddy's games. Foxy humming in the hallway. Corey X Kenshin's cameo, another YouTuber that was very famous for playing FNAF when it came out. Hell, the book Mike is reading called Dream Theory is literally a reference to the theory that Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is all in the mind of a kid. I mean, I could go on. And I love how they keep these cameos and these references so niche for the fans to figure out and for the non-fans to be like, what does that mean? I will say there are a lot of instances where characters will make dumb decisions, and I know that's a custom with horror films. If all the characters were thinking cognitively, the film would have been over a long time ago. But I could give you a whole list of dumb character decisions. I mean, the guy who locks himself in the closet and gets back shots from Bonnie. The guy who drops his crowbar when he's running away from Bonnie. Max following the ghost of a child. After not killing Abby when he had the chance. Which I'm glad he didn't, but when you're looking at it from the villain's perspective, it's pretty dumb. And all of Vanessa's decisions. I'm just kidding. Ultimately, while I am very aware of these dumb character decisions, I'm honestly okay with it because a lot of these dumb decisions led to some of my favorite parts of the movie, and dumb decisions are bound to happen, especially in horror movies like Five Nights at Freddy's. I actually really love the story. Like I said earlier, I love how convoluted and complicated it can be so that you can try to figure out what's all going on here. Because while most fans already know what's going on, it is almost like its own little journey because it's a new retelling of the franchise. It's a great start to this new movie franchise. It doesn't completely copy the story from the games, while also staying really faithful to the games so it feels fresh. Now, I know I haven't talked much about the actual animatronics like Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, mostly because they are side characters in this movie and in the games, even though they're the whole reason that people watch the movie. But I love how they were able to bring these animatronics to life using both actual animatronics, puppets, and actual suits, as God intended. And these amazing animatronics were brought to life by the Jim Henson's Creature Shop, which, if you don't know, has worked on countless films and shows throughout the years, making tons of awesome practical effects like for the Muppets and for the 90s TMNT movies. And they really make these animatronics so full of life and make them super accurate to the first game, which they have better been accurate considering they had 8 years to perfect it. But even beyond the animatronics, all the effects are really well done. Yes, I know CGI blood everywhere, but also we don't get much blood in the first place because, you know, PG-13. We'll get into that in the Blood Money segment. But overall, these effects are really solid, and judging by the sequel, are only improving. Now, for the Blood Money Award, I was really tempted to give it to William Afton because that was our first time actually getting to see the spring lock incident, but I think that scene was killed by the fact that it wasn't rated R. It's still an awesome kill, but because of the PG-13 rating, I'm gonna give the Blood Money Award to Max for the Bite of 87-esque kill by Freddy. This kill literally shocked me in the theater because I was so disappointed by the fact that this movie was not rated R. So I was not expecting them to be able to get away with any sort of gory kills, but they got away with a pretty gnarly one with this one. Now, I totally understand why they're going PG-13 because a lot of kids actually like Five Nights at Freddy's, but these movies deserved that R rating. Overall, guys, despite all the flaws with this movie, I love Five Nights at Freddy's. Again, I am totally biased due to my love of this franchise and how I waited almost 8 years to see this thing, but I genuinely think Scott did justice to his games and made me want to see more, which thankfully we will be. And I'm sure Scott saw the reception on the first movie and is going to be fixing some of the issues people had with this film, including some issues I had. So if you are a fan of the games or you just want a fun horror movie to turn your brain off to, I would say this film is worth a ticket, or I guess worth buying a copy. God, that ranking system really doesn't work for movies that are already out. And that's my review of Five Nights at Freddy's. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss my FNAF 2 review in the next couple weeks. Be sure to tune in for that one because I have something special that I'm going to throw into that review. Got a little bit creative, we'll just say that.
This is what YouTube does to a man. It makes him get on his knees. Did you record?
Also, check out my Running Man review if you haven't already, because so many of you didn't. Not mad. I'm just disappointed. I'm just kidding. I appreciate everybody's support, but I would like it if you went and checked out that review. As always, give me your 2 cents on Five Nights at Freddy's in the comments below. I appreciate all your guys' support, and I will see you soon.